you guys might be familiar with a columnist at the Washington Post. I'm talking, of course, about Taylor Lorenz. Now, why are we talking about this person? Because they have basically come out now and said that they're facing a lot of online abuse, right? And the irony here is that this particular columnist, their whole style of reporting is basically like, infiltrating tiny communities online and basically smearing people, and causing them like actual harm. I'll actually get into some of the cases. There was this incident with Clubhouse last year, but right now MSNBC did a segment on her and how like she and other female journalists are facing online abuse. But Glenn Greenwald and others, they've talked about this, and I feel like there's a little bit more to the story. But let me just show you the segment first. Let's watch it together, and then we'll dissect this. And I think this is a very, very interesting topic, regarding liberal orthodoxies, how basically, they want you to bend over backwards for elite journalists, Ivy League journalists, never question them. And if you dare open your mouth, you're harassing them. But it's okay for them to harass people online and smear them and destroy their lives and their careers. And if you open your mouth, you're a misogynist. Let's take a look.
Welcome back. This week, the White House proclaimed April as National Sexual Assault Awareness and Prevention Month. One of the fastest growing threats to women is online harassment. The latest government statistics show 1 in 3 women under the age of 35 have experienced a type of essentially sexual harassment online. It's often underreported and many times not taken seriously, despite its serious risk to mental health and physical safety. The Biden administration is now committed to a new global partnership for action on gender-based online harassment and abuse. The goal, deliver an action plan on combating technology-facilitated gender-based violence by the end of this year. Morgan Radford joins me now. She's been doing some reporting on the impact of this type of harassment, especially the impact it has on women in journalism. And it's not even a close call, Morgan. As nasty as the attacks can be on some of us in this business, if you're a woman, it is at another level.
Yeah, that's right, Chuck. And, before this was all sort of anecdotal, but now we have hard data. I mean, this is one of the biggest issues facing female journalists right now. And an unprecedented study is giving us a closer look at just how some of those online attacks against female journalists are actually getting started and what it looks like for those who are on the receiving end. But a warning to our viewers, some of the language you hear in this report, it may be disturbing.
Female reporters are often at the center of the bullseye. 73% of women journalists saying they've experienced online attacks, while 30% say it has impacted their work.
I don't know if I can say this on TV. I'm going to rape you.
Someone wrote the words, "I'm going to rape you."
Yep.
Journalist Taylor Lorenz is a columnist for the Washington Post and was targeted nearly 1 year ago in a segment on Fox News.
She's at the very top of journalism's repulsive little food chain.
Host Tucker Carlson mocking her after she called for an end to online harassment. Now she's at the center of a new study by NYU researchers, among the first to actually quantify online hate against female journalists.
This is the moment that Carlson aired that segment.
Yes. We see this really dramatic rise.
Using large-scale data to measure online language, they tracked violent and threatening tweets directed at 2 female journalists after being targeted by 2 male media figures. Researchers found that attacks against Lorenz went up as much as 144% after just 1 Twitter thread. For another journalist, they went up 65%. Lorenz and digital reporter Kate Sawson say these types of attacks have changed their lives and their work.
There's reporting that I know that I would like to do or that other journalists would like to do that we are not able to do because it's not safe enough for us to do them.
And they're not alone.
This is after I did a report on an increase in the number of white supremacists running for office. Condescending journalists, C-word, deserves a rope. Obviously, I'm a person of color. Obviously, there's a reference to a noose. Are you getting messages like these?
Yep. Hey, nice job on that story, you soulless effing. Then also you'll see there's many people that are tweeting, these are Taylor Lorenz's loved ones.
They have photos. Wow, these are all photos of your family members.
Yeah,
children.
They'll threaten children. They'll threaten My parents, I've had to remove every single social tie. I had severe PTSD from this. I contemplated suicide. It got really bad. You feel like any little piece of information that gets out on you will be used by the worst people on the internet to destroy your life. And it's so isolating.
And terrifying.
It's horrifying. I'm so sorry.
You're fine.
It's overwhelming. It's really hard.
Now, Chuck, we reached out to Glenn Greenwald and Fox News about this study. Greenwald responded saying, in part, as a member of various marginalized groups, I don't want or accept some special immunity shield against being criticized, and no journalist with any dignity or worth should want that either. Neither Tucker Carlson nor his employer, Fox News, have responded to us, Chuck.
Well, Morgan, folks who live online know exactly what they're doing when they do target a journalist that way. And unfortunately, the online community, well, as was said in the piece, the worst of the worst are the ones that come out and respond. Morgan, I'm glad you did that story. It's important for it to be out there.
Okay, wow. There is so much to unpack here. There's so much to unpack. Look, right off the bat, I empathize with her. Like, I get it. The insults, the family stuff, I get it. Like, that's not cool. I'm not excusing that. I actually empathize with her. Like, no one should go through that. I don't, it's not nice. Fine. But when you realize what kind of work she does, right? Like what her whole shtick is. Last year in 2021, look what happened. She basically went on and she accused some guy of using the word retard, right? She infiltrated a Clubhouse conversation. Again, for those of you who don't know, Clubhouse is an app where people, it's not video, it's just audio, and people have conversations on there, and you can only be invited onto Clubhouse. You cannot sign up, you have to receive a special invite. She posted this last year. This is the same woman, Taylor Lorenz, right? She accused this guy of openly using the R slur on Clubhouse, and not one other person in the room calling on him called him out on it or saying anything. So she's not only saying this guy said the R word, she's also saying everybody in the room is guilty. They didn't say anything about it. So, they're complicit and all of this. The thing is, he never said that. So that was completely made up lie. Okay. It was completely made up. He never said that word. She's talking about Mark Anderson. Okay. And again, like they were talking about Reddit and GameStop. So do you know what she did? She never apologized. She never issued a correction. She deleted the tweet. And then she went and locked her account on Twitter, made it private. So, nobody could reply to her. Nobody could tag her. Nobody could do anything. So like as if she was the victim. So she basically set loose a bunch of people online to attack this guy for a word that he did not say. It was actually somebody else's voice. And she never apologized for it. And I mean, this is her whole work. Like, this is not something, she just posted that. This is her work. This is what she does. And I think this is really, Glenn describes it perfectly. It's really hall monitor type stuff, right? Here's the perfect, Glenn perfectly encapsulate this, right? Tattling, hall monitoring, speech policing, all in the most anti-intellectual, adolescent, and primitive ways. So her whole thing is going online, finding, seeking out communities in Clubhouse, Reddit, wherever it is, and then exposing people for saying words or things that she doesn't like, even when they don't do it. Like, it's just, making things up. And she's so basically abusing people online and then claiming that she is the victim now of online abuse. What? Hold on a second. This is like a bully. When a bully gets caught, they start breaking down in tears because they've been caught. This is exactly what that is. Literally crocodile tears. And I'm not excusing the nasty comments, the ones that she read out. That's nasty. Even despite all of the stuff that she does, which is really horrible. I don't agree with that. I don't think that's okay. But it really shows you the hypocrisy. And I want to show you this is one case. This is literally one case. Do you know who else she targeted? She targeted a reporter at the New York Times. His name is McNeil, and she got him fired. He worked 45 years for the New York Times and got fired because of her. And this is what happened. So again, Glenn mentions this in this article that he wrote last year. So science reporter Donald McNeil on a 2019 field trip for rich high school kids to Peru. He used the N-word after a student asked him whether he thought it was fair that one of her classmates was punished for having used it in a video. McNeil used it not with malice or as a racist insult, but to inquire about the facts of the video so he could answer the student's question. So again, in both cases, on Clubhouse, I mean, that guy didn't say the word retard anyway. He was saying it in the context of that subreddit because people in that subreddit use it all the time. You can't talk about it without mentioning that word because it's part of their lingo and their slang. It's not because he was saying it to, mock someone with, impaired, someone who's impaired. And in this case, it's the same thing. So McNeil is asking, he's trying to inquire and understand what the student is asking him, right? It's not he's saying it out of malice. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So look what happens. The New York Times senior editors, including African-American editor-in-chief Dean Backett, investigated this and concluded only a reprimand was appropriate. Okay, so they said that it doesn't appear that his intentions were hateful or malicious. That's the senior editors at the New York Times. But then dozens of McNeil's colleagues wrote a furious letter demanding far more severe punishment, and they said our community is outraged and in pain. And you had 150 employees at the New York Times who signed this. And they said that intent is irrelevant. They got him fired after working 45 years with the paper. So this is what Glenn is trying to show here. This mentality it's pervasive among liberal outlets and liberal work environments. They don't care that you said something that wasn't out of malice. Just the fact that it came out of your mouth, like it's unacceptable. Censor you, fire you, ruin your career, harass you, smear you. This is how it works. Do you understand? It's really disgusting. And I want to show you somebody else. This woman on Twitter. She responded to the video that I just showed you of Taylor Lorenz crying. And she's one of the people that was attacked by Taylor Lorenz. Okay, so look at the tweet. She says, I don't want to share the ugly crying that I did after my 15-plus year career was destroyed by Taylor Lorenz. I want to move on. I also can't help my visceral reaction to her crocodile tears. I am appalled. Let me play you the video underneath, okay?
I just wanted to say thanks because I have a tiny following on Twitter, but the fact that my message is spreading is really important to me because Taylor Lorenz crying about how she's being attacked on the internet and that it destroyed her life and gave her PTSD after what happened to me and dozens of other people is quite frankly maddening. Also, my career was not something that was in the public eye. I represented talent and I put my own personal finances on the line, my time as somebody in their 30s, a single woman who wanted a family. I gave up everything. And for Taylor Lorenz to spread lies about me in a way that was so egregious that I was basically fired by everybody, to watch her cry about mean tweets is just appalling. So thank you.
So again, this woman, Ariadna Jacob, if you look this up, she basically sued Taylor Lorenz for defamation because, she basically ruined her whole career. This is just one of many other examples. So again, you have basically this entire environment where, journalists, like so-called journalists, will actually get other journalists fired for no reason, like literally ruin their lives for no reason. If we're talking about McNeil, because, apparently context is not important, whether there was malice or not, it's not important. And then they go and do it to ordinary people online who are not, journalists, who are not reporters, who have just regular people that are not famous. They just actively seek out people to destroy their lives. And that's the kind of reporting that, somebody, again, Glenn is pointing this out. Like, this is how they operate, these sorts of journalists, I really think it's well encapsulated. He says that it's a particularly toxic strain of this authoritarian reporting. Teams of journalists at three of the most influential corporate media outlets, so CNN, NBC, or the New York Times, they devote the bulk of their journalism to searching for online spaces where they believe speech and conduct rules are being violated, flagging them, and then pleading that punitive action be taken, banning censorship, content regulation, after-school detention. And so these hall monitor reporters are a major factor explaining why tech monopolies, which for reasons of self-interest and ideology, never wanted the responsibility to censor, but now do so with abandon and seemingly arbitrary blunt force. They are shamed by the world's loudest media companies when they do not. And that's the same thing that, we're experiencing on YouTube, for example. This is why we always have to be careful. I always tell you, please help me fight the algorithm, because, at any moment's notice, you're going to have a bunch of liberals piling on someone trying to get them deplatformed because they don't like what they said. And this has got nothing to do with like Republicans. I'm not a goddamn Republican. I'm to the left of liberals, right? So-called liberals. That doesn't matter. Anyone who's an ideological enemy, anyone who disagrees with them, they will punish them by trying to get them banned, censored, and silenced. And right, they do this in a multitude of ways. He's a white supremacist. He's a racist. Oh, he's a sexist. He's a misogynist. He's a rapist. Right? It doesn't matter if it's not true. That's not the point. Just by saying that, that's how they go after people. And it's not even limited to just like people at their colleagues, as we were seeing with McNeil. They'll just do it to regular people as well. So they can like create an environment online where, anyone who diverges from these liberal orthodoxies is just crushed, and this is incredible. And I think this new piece that Glenn put out, he says that your top priority is the emotional comfort of the most powerful elites, which you fulfill by never criticizing them. So this is what makes it even funnier. It's not that their sort of journalism is basically ruining people's lives. It's also that you cannot criticize them because that's misogyny. You can't say that what they're doing is mean and unethical and accomplishes absolutely nothing. You can't say that because then you're being abusive. And I'm not talking about the stuff that she read out, because you can see with Glenn, do you see how they put Glenn's response at the end of the segment? Do you see here how they quoted him? This is something insidious, right? Because they asked him what he thinks about this, and they literally posted the last line from his entire email. Okay, so the NBC asked him, hi Glenn, this is Aaron with NBC News and MSNBC. We're covering a recent study that found a segment on Fox News, Tucker Carlson Tonight, and a tweet sent by you resulted in a sharp increase in harmful speech directed toward one journalist. And they're reaching out to see if he has any statement. So Glenn responded, everyday employees of large media corporations such as NBC post insults and attacks which quote-unquote target me and my journalism and me personally, often resulting in vile and bigoted attacks against me based on homophobia, anti-Semitism, and the nature of my interracial marriage and family. But I don't whine about it or try to claim that nobody can criticize me or my work, because I understand that those who seek out a large and influential journalistic platform that affects people's lives are fair game for criticisms, and that my critics aren't responsible for the bigoted and hateful bile I receive daily as a result of the hatred they stimulate. Perhaps influential employees of the largest media outlets, such as Taylor Lorenz, will one day come to a similar realization that being a front-page reporter for the largest and most influential news outlets makes you fair game for critique. Men such as yourself who try to impose a special shield that rules off limits from criticism certain journalists, those of us who are LGBT, women, religious minorities, and other members of marginalized groups, may think you're doing something noble, but you're not. You're actually imposing and upholding a highly regressive framework from the 1950s that maintains that only straight white men are strong and important enough to be criticized, whereas women, LGBT, and others are too fragile and weak to have their work criticized. And here's the quote they put. It's just the last line. As a member of various marginalized groups, I don't want or accept some special immunity shield against being criticized, and no journalist with any dignity or worth should want that either. Now, obviously, I know that, they're doing a segment. They don't have maybe all the time to read the full statement like I did. I'm also doing a segment and I read it. But, they're basically trying to get this one-liner to show like, oh, Glenn is so indifferent. They totally left out all the other parts, right? Could have easily put it in. They don't want to. And they're basically trying to paint him and Tucker Carlson as some, kind of misogynist. Glenn's a good friend of mine. I love him. Tucker Carlson, I don't really know Tucker Carlson. I just seen his anti-war stuff. I think that's good. I don't know about his other things. But, I'm pretty sure that there's something they're not telling correctly in this segment. When they're coming out and saying that criticizing her work is misogyny. This is ridiculous. And I think Glenn is right. It's kind of ironic because while claiming to defend women, they're basically saying like women are so weak that they can't be criticized. What do you mean? Like, what's the difference between saying those criticizing the work of a male journalist? Why should the male journalist be criticized but not the female journalist? Like, shouldn't there be equality here? It's not about that, man. They don't care about this. What happens in neoliberal discourse today, they tokenize and they abuse minorities and whether it's, LGBT, women, people of color. They don't actually care about them. It's like when Biden puts, a black man to head the Pentagon. So now you have a black man who's bombing black people and brown people, like as if that makes a difference, right? The policy is the same, but they just tokenize the marginalized groups that they claim to defend. It's ridiculous. And in this case, they're making a mockery out of this. Like, basically, again, I don't like the comments that she read out that, those like people insulting her and her family. That's, I don't think that's okay to anyone, but criticizing her work, I mean, come on, man. Like that, on the contrary, that's what you should want, because that doesn't make it personal. When people start lobbing personal attacks at you, that's weak. You know that they've lost. When someone starts smearing you or they start making, basically lobbing cuss words at you, that's because they can't engage the argument. That's weak. But the thing is, when they're doing it to her, because she's like lying about people, she's ruining their lives, which that's her work. That's her job, apparently, as a journalist. She doesn't like it, and she says she has PTSD. What's funny to me is they platform this stuff, or let's say they just do a segment on this stuff on MSNBC, and they say like, oh, this is a journalist being attacked, right? Well, hold on a second. You care about journalists being attacked. Why don't you talk about Assange? Like, why don't you talk about journalists who actually challenge power centers, the CIA, right? The military industrial complex, the deep state, corporate America, MI6, the NSA, like actual power centers, which is your goddamn job as a journalist. When I'm doing my work, I criticize my government with how they're jailing a journalist in London in a maximum security prison. I don't go picking on British people online because they said some stupid word. What is that? That's gutter journalism. Not even the Daily Mail does that crap. That's ridiculous. Like the journalists who are actually having their physical and mental health ripped apart by authoritarian countries like the UK and the US. They've literally put a journalist in a maximum security prison who is not serving a sentence. That's the stuff that they accuse other countries of doing all the time. It's happening in London. So, Assange, that guy, I'm telling you, man, he is struggling with mental illness because of the persecution they have put him through, right? And that's been a big reason that he has not been extradited so far, that the extradition was blocked, because they have ruined his mental health and they have made him suicidal. Like, that's actual PTSD. That, again, I'm not trying to minimize what happened to her. Everybody's mental health struggle is relative. Fine. But my point is, if NBC and these other liberal outlets really care about journalists that are being victimized and attacked and persecuted because of their work, why don't they talk about Assange? Why don't they talk about people like him who are being beaten, who are being physically tormented, psychologically tormented because of their work? Work that actually challenges power, that challenges, Western power centers like the military industrial complex, corporate America, the intelligence agencies, big tech. And not people who go after, random civilians online and try to ruin their lives. What is that? How lame. And apparently me saying that's misogyny. I don't give a shit, man, what gender or sex you are. That's bullshit work. You're not challenging anyone. Anyone can bully at people online. That's not journalism. And I'm not going to get into this whole like, oh, you're a journalist and you're not a journalist. I don't even care about that. I'm just saying that, they want to ruin other people's lives and abuse them online. And when someone says something minor to them, they have PTSD and they cry. Ridiculous. This, again, Glenn really nails it, because the whole point here is to basically create an environment where you are not allowed to criticize the most powerful journalists, who are, people like Taylor Lorenz, who are working at the biggest outlets in the world, front page reporters who wield unbelievable power. And then basically you're supposed to just shut up and keep your head down and accept everything they do. And even criticizing their work is off limits. It's not even like you shouldn't attack them personally, which I understand. That's nothing to do with their work. It's not that. It's like, don't criticize their work or you're a misogynist. Ridiculous. Utterly ridiculous. I wish that most people who, because again, man, Glenn said that. Glenn said that he also gets attacked online. I also get attacked online. I wish it was about my work. I swear, I'm not even kidding. I have never seen anyone actually criticize my work. All they do is do personal insults. So I must be doing something right. I must be doing something right. After MSNBC published this segment, this is what she said. She said, if your segment or story on online harassment leads to even worse online harassment for your subjects, you fucked up royally and should learn how to cover these things properly before ever talking about them again. So apparently people were just mocking her after she shed those, the crocodile tears right here. It completely backfired. I honestly, I don't know. Really, I'm being honest. I don't know how they covered it badly. I think, besides cutting out 90% of Glenn's statement, yeah. The issue is not how MSNBC did the segment. You are the issue because you cannot see that you're a hypocrite. And you cannot see that you're fostering an environment where, you are off limits. No one is able to criticize you, despite the awesome power that you wield. And, it's fair game for you to screw other people, smear them online, destroy their careers, ruin their lives. I mean, this is ridiculous, And you're also basically making a mockery of misogyny by saying that, criticizing your work is misogynistic. It's nothing to do with that. Literally nothing to do with that.